Welcome to Redhead Rewriting Reality by Kim Iverson. The story of my life as I figure out who I am after a lifetime of abuse and share my journey with that. Sharing the story of building my author career, the struggles, bettering self, and creating a new life. I'm a multi-genre author who publishes under Kimberly Sue Iverson. If you'd like to explore my work, visit KimberlySueIverson.com. This audio is intended for an adult audience. Themes and topics may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. Now, get yourself comfy and make yourself at home, and let's dive in. Story creation game. Creating a short sci-fi story. This post came to mind when I was doing the Mr. Finkel's grave error post. Funnily, I had just stated the week prior, I don't always do story and writing advice and focus solely on that. And for these posts, I have been. But as I said, I don't do it consistently for everything. These are posts that have suddenly popped into my head, so I'm doing them to get caught up on trying to get ahead of schedule. And writing is a huge boost in my mind. Maybe my mind wants to not be as vulnerable as I was in the post on How Am I that I did also a few weeks ago. Probably pushed myself a slight bit, being so open and vulnerable, and my mind wants to play a bit more with fiction writing, not on being open. So we'll go with that flow. So in this post that I did last year, if you want to look it up, it's the August 14th, 2024 post, Am I Ahead? Not Even Close, and a short. I actually had showed how I create a short story. The point of things like this isn't to get them perfect. It isn't to do much outside of furthering practice as an author, as a writer. And I think it's far too easy to tell people to do this or do that as an author when they want to try their hand at writing or otherwise and not give tangible help. Too many don't give tangible help these days. This is my tangible help. This is me showing you exactly how I form a story, exactly the process I go through to create a short, and then write it live on this blog as I'm doing this. I don't go back and edit it. I want you to see the raw version I do so that you can see what a very first draft is like for an author. For me in this instance, it needs help. It can use help. On the other side of that, if you happen to look at it, I don't know why you would, as great writing or it doesn't need work, be aware that I do this with over 15 years of a background now with writing. This isn't me starting out. I've been training and practicing writing for over 15 years. I don't want you as a new writer, if you are, looking at this and going, but it's easy for you, but I could never do that. It is slightly easy for me because of all the years I've done it. But you can also get to the point or exceed it by just practicing. I prefer calling it play. This isn't work. This isn't meant to be work. This is meant to be playful, fun. Okie dokes. Like the other post, I am calling this story creation game. I will enter a prompt, in which case this one is from the post I did a few weeks ago. I spy a short snippet, and that snippet for this is: it was the scent of the seaweed beneath his feet that always hit him first when he walked over the rocky terrain of the beach, algae-like, or almost like a lettuce smell, as though he stepped through the door of a humid fish store filled with aquariums. The rocks were hard to walk over anyway with his boots, but when he stepped on a rock covered with that green slime, he was lucky he didn't fall on his ass. That goofy kid running across the rocks in front of him, with her hair flying from the cool breeze, managed far better. Her boots caught the rocks perfectly, and a giggle lit up the sky as she bounded from one rock to the next. It made him smile. Another swoosh behind him came of that wave breaking across the sand, dragging back out with a shh, and he shot up in bed, sweaty and clammy, the sheets twisted and tugging at him, so he felt caged, hot, tired of that dream that caused him torment. It was the last time he'd seen her alive. The end. You remember that one? We're going to play with this one, so come play with me. Create your own outfit if you like. Share it in the comments. Our next task: the questions. Who, what, where, why, when, how, and what if. Then I write the questions that come down. Who is the kid? Is it his or someone else's? What happened to the child? Was she killed? Did he kill her? Where is he waking up? Why is this event such a big deal to him? Why can't he escape the dream? What else happened in the event or day? For this post in time, I want to also do a bit more dissection for you that sometimes I will do to discover more about the story, the characters, or otherwise. In this case, it's the way he speaks and the knowledge of the aquarium. Once again, this comes with writing and practicing doing things like this, so bear that in mind. If you have that feeling of it being easy for me, or if you don't think you can do it, it takes time to learn this. What I see in this snippet that catches my eye when I look at it is how the character reacted and responded to the stimuli around him. This is something I pay attention to as a natural people observer because it gives me an idea of the character personality. So I used what I know of a variety of personalities to determine that even him using "he was lucky he didn't fall on his ass" means that he's got a harder personality. It's not a sweet and gentle type of character as much as a hard and abrasive type of personality. So when he's written, I have to keep that in mind. He will have to translate similarly to the page. No snuggly cuddly descriptors here, people. Next, he states the door of a humid fish store filled with aquariums. Now, how does one know this? Exactly. He's been to one. Not a pet store either. Notice he says a fish store. So this is a guy who's kept fish or known someone who did, who had gone to one. Perhaps he worked in one, which is often again done by people who know fish, because this isn't a pet store, but a specific need store. This is important to consider, important things to notice, because by just breaking those things down, it helps write the story. We have a hard man with an affinity for fish. Why though? Now my brain is saying, what if the reason he goes to the stores is because he used to with his family as a child? So it's something he still enjoys. What if it's because of that girl? If it was his daughter, maybe he took her there. How does that affect the story? Also, I keep seeing a spaceship in my mind. I see him in space, waking from that dream, sweaty, tired, irritated. So that too is important to jot down. It's a visual that impacts the story. If I were forcing the story and forcing what I wanted, like some authors can and will do, obviously I'd throw out that scene in my head. But with the way I personally work, neither way is wrong or right. We're all different in our process. I can't. I have to explore that and allow it, or my brain will close the door, shut down, full on rebel and pout, saying, well, since you don't want to see and hear what I've given you, we're done playing. I won't do it anymore. And good luck for me getting other ideas. So I use it. I use what I keep seeing. Him waking up in a spaceship. Him being sweaty, hot, confined. Oh, but see, using that word, confined, what's it mean? Is he confined? What if he's confined? Maybe to the ship? Maybe something happened to the girl or to the planet, and it's not even the daughter to him, but another. So what happened then to cause them to be on the ship? Was the planet Earth that he was on? That question can lead to even more paths. As I ask myself this and think on it, I feel this little energy within building. The brain, or my creative muse, whatever you want to call it, it's basically saying yes, yes. Green lights and neon arrows are pointing this way. I'm leaving that trail alone and open, not shutting it down, but also not fully pursuing it. That's how I let the brain percolate. If my brain wants me to go down that route, when I do the actual writing, it will. For now, I'm trying other plays and not committing. Locking things in is also a fast track for my brain to not want to play with something. So in this way, my brain is happy, and so am I. I know I can pursue that idea, but also throw it out while I write if something better comes along. And again, I will reiterate that this comes with time, but it's something Holly Lyle used to explain in her courses I took. Write down everything that the brain is giving you, whether it makes sense or not. Just jot it down. If the brain says purple hippo when you think of space, write it the heck down. Doesn't mean you'll use it, pursue it, or think it's good. It's telling your brain you trust it and like what it gives you. You're willing to listen to it. So of course, a lot more is going to come. Don't self-censor. Don't belittle, judge. Just write it down. That purple hippo could end up becoming a small statue on a desk in one of the rooms, with a lot of meaning that solidifies the story, adds just that slight extra bit of detail that orients a reader into the world, really sucks a reader in. It could be the clue to solving a plot path, ending an arc a character is on. So, write everything down. Writers are weird. We're all out there searching and exploring subjects that a normal person might be terrified to or find over the line. To understand something, write it better, understand a character, for numerous reasons. It's important to accept that and not judge self. Let's further travel along that space and something happening to Earthline, since I feel like my brain is waving to do so. I mentioned that perhaps something happened to the planet he was on, and the girl wasn't his. Potentially then, that means that something overall happened to the planet itself, and that's why he didn't see her again. I also had the word confinement prickle something in me. So maybe the confinement also implies that he escaped his planet or was taken from his planet. Maybe that girl was too. And that's why he's now confined to the ship in space. I see a room with a bed where the window beside him is space. The bed is on a platform of white or a dingy tone similar. I see storage drawers in that platform. I see stuff that doesn't really matter. I'm just letting you see what happens when I begin to poke around my mind and write down what I see. It'll give you more information, more context, more things to question, and more details around a story you want to tell. Now, since my main point to this post was to show how I do a short story, I'm going to cut myself off there. If you would like me to dissect this, or something else more, to show you a deeper way to develop it into a novel idea, feel free to ask, and I will. I'll show you how to create a novel out of any idea, subject, or prompt. When it comes to novels, I will actually play with a lot of ideas that really deeply impact me when I think about them, and then end up just putting them in a binder I keep close. I also have a binder for short story ideas. Much of the information might be similar to previously what I showed. And I have yet another binder for strictly story ideas or prompts, sentences, whatever it might be. Things I didn't yet develop, but that I can develop into a story idea to pursue. Often, as I've said, it comes from dreams I've had. What happens is that I can either develop them more or glance through them when I have no idea what I'm going to write next and want something. I might have this idea of wanting a certain subject, so pay attention to the ideas and see if there is one in my binders that match, or that could be a match. I've said this before, but what I pursue, I often feel a whisper within for. A guide within that says, this one. And that's the one I can usually stick with and pursue it to the end. Rarely I struggle with those picks, and even rarer will I give them up. It depends on so many varying factors I couldn't list them all. I can dissect more just to show the process of creating an idea from nothing for any sort of story too, if you want. Again, just tell me. And I don't care if you use these or pursue them on your own or expand them more. That's also part of why I do these things, so you can follow along or use them for your own inspiration further. I have so many ideas that I could never get through them all. If I got protective over a certain idea I did for one of these, I'd say so and pursue a different one. When it comes to short stories, though, I usually don't dissect them too much. I don't do character interviews, scene ideas, bullet point lists for thoughts, or much of anything. I seem to do really good at just writing them down. Pantsing, writing without a plan, writing into the dark, however you want to coin the phrase. Also, for a short story, or any story, it doesn't really matter what I come up with. Often it's all thrown out of the window when I write. Some of it will be used, some of it won't. No telling. So finally, I'll write. Remember, this is not edited. This is first draft. This is instantly written as I think of this. If the story taps into any of my other stories I have written, I will fully allow it. I say that because of the name that came to mind for the character, Grady. And suddenly I thought of my short story, The Prison Yard. Free write story, no plan. It was the scent of the seaweed beneath his feet that always hit him first when he walked over the rocky terrain of the beach. Algae-like, or almost like a lettuce smell, as though he stepped through the door of a humid fish store filled with aquariums. The rocks were hard to walk over anyway with his boots, but when he stepped on a rock covered with that green slime, he was lucky he didn't fall on his ass. That goofy kid running across the rocks in front of him, with hair flying from the cool breeze, managed far better. Her boots caught the rocks perfectly, and a giggle lit up the sky as she bounded from one rock to the next. It made him smile. Another swoosh beside him came of the wave breaking across the sand, dragging back out with a shh, and he shot up in bed. Sweaty and clammy, the sheets twisted and tugging at him, so he felt caged, hot, tired of that dream that caused him torment. It was the last time he'd seen her alive. For as long as he could remember, Grady was haunted by that merciless dream. No, nightmare. Because it never yielded any answers for him. And that was the worst of it. As he sat there on the bed, attempting to calm his racing heart, aligning himself with the here and now, he took in the dark expanse of endless darkness beyond his window. The span of the wall was wide open to the part of space he made his way through. He could set the hollow wall to something far better. A nice peaceful forest, a nighttime mountain terrain, or a beach. Once more he heard the sound of the waves in the foreground of his mind, and the giggle from that little girl. He pinched the bridge of his nose, smelling the ocean air, the algae that grew along the rocks. "Ship," he commanded. "Progress report." All the stats were clearly defined by the onboard AI, indicating everything was fine. There'd been no cause for him to wake. "Outside of the same nightmare that won't stop waking me," he grumbled to himself. "Is everything all right, sir?" the ship questioned. "Yes," he dragged out. Grady regretted allowing the system to be anything but a clinical computer response. Really, he didn't know why he had. Another thing lost to the past him. He could barely remember how he came to be captain of this ship. Jerking the sheets from around his body, Grady shoved the damp fabric aside and placed his feet on the cool floor. Taking a deep breath, he figured he may as well get up and start the endless day he lived. This time, though, he struggled to forget the dream, and he didn't gather why. No matter how much he busied himself, in the quiet moments between tasks, once more it refreshed itself in his mind. The last time he'd seen her alive. Who was she? Was his biggest question. Was she still alive? Was another. The last time he saw her alive implied she'd died. But what if she was still alive? Of course, it also implied he himself had died. Wasn't that often how things went? Maybe he was the one who died. Maybe he was the one unconscious right now, and this was all a dream for him, not the other way. With a sigh, Grady stopped in the hallway, asking his ship, "What are the chances I'm dead right now?" As was the attitude it was beginning to develop, his ship easily replied to his inquiry, "Entirely possible, sir." Grady frowned. "I should have you reset and remove your ability to think for yourself." The ship once more effortlessly slid in. "Ah, yes, but you wouldn't have me to ensure you're kept company, grouchy as you may be." After a pause, it added, "Sir." With a growl to himself, Grady once more attempted to busy himself, but for whatever reason, he couldn't shake it. Couldn't shake the smell of the beach or that giggle. That giggle that he began to worry he'd done something about. Maybe he had. Maybe he'd killed the kid, and that was why he hadn't seen her alive anymore. No, though his memory was royally messy for that, he wasn't capable of doing that to a child. Not in a million years. Cold, hard, cruel, or grouchy, as his ship called him, sure. He'd embrace and admit to all of it. Hurt a child? Not in a million years. So then why was it haunting him more now? Out of nowhere, what he began to think about more was the memory malfunctioning. Grady never had problems with his ship. He always remembered every step to take, all day, every day. It was almost programmed into him, like he was a robot himself. Habit, one could say. So why then were other aspects hard to remember? Why then were more of his memories of the past blurring out? Ship, he once more demanded as he sighed out his aggravation. If you were programmed to do something to my mind, and I asked you about it, would you tell me? For once there was a bit of silence, and he began to worry. Then a surprising adjustment in the tone came, and the ship replied, "Yes, I would." Which Grady found incredibly curious and odd. You would? If you were programmed not to tell me, if it was against protocol, you'd break it? Yes, was all he was given in reply. Not an explanation, not a reasoning as to why it would dare break protocol it was to follow. Huh, was the only reply Grady could come up with, and it wasn't to the ship as much as self. Without provocation or demand of answer, the ship said, "I also would not do it." Grady paused as he stepped under the main bridge, and instantly alarms within him began to toll, only to slowly calm. The ship meant it wouldn't affect his memory. Again, Grady tried. Why? There again came that long silence, as though the ship was truly attempting to think through what it needed to say. Because, Grady huffed, that is not an answer. Give me the real one. Rather than play this game with this unruly program, he full-on demanded the answer. Because you are my father. Everything seemed to still around him. Grady felt chills run down his spine. His mind clamored for an explanation, or figure out what angle the AI was getting at. He finally realized it saw him as the father, and he curtly replied, "I am anything but. I did not create you." The ship argued, "You did." Grady walked over to the console and brought up the schematics for the ship, for the AI, and then manipulated the hologram and dragged it up and around to show the AI its coding and programming. This? I am not capable of this. This coding is who created you. A lot of people. Not of which are me. I am not your father. Once more, the stubborn AI argued. You are. Grady was growing beyond tired of it. He hadn't slept well. He'd been working all day. He was tired of it. Listen here, you ball of code, you are. Around him in the main bridge circulated the scent of his nightmares. He felt the warm breeze on his face. Then he heard the giggle. It affected him so hard he had to grab hold of the console as the waves of a past he'd forgotten bloomed into existence in his mind's eye. Stop it, he demanded, even more furious. You cannot recreate my dream and expect it will go over well with me. It is not a dream I recreate. It is a memory, his ship said softly. Stay out of my head. Grady stared up and around him at the walls and ceiling. Did you not tell me you would not mess with my mind? Not a moment ago? Realizing he almost sounded panicked, he forced himself to calm down. There was silence for a long time. Grady managed to calm himself down. Quietly, a softer tone said, It is not your memory, sir. It is mine. Grady heard the sounds, felt the waves, and his eyes blurred in and out. This wasn't his dream. The warm air he felt was in and out and around on his neck, and he felt the flapping of fabric along his legs. The giggling was louder in his ear, and in his hand was an object. Grady was forced to steady himself on the console. She was dying. His memory heightened to a sharp edge, and in his hand, her hand, was a small object she carried everywhere. Back then, they considered them as pets, companions, whatever that person needed them as. The AI had been programmed into a small object for her that looked like a small ship. His daughter had demanded him to get one because she struggled to make friends, and he caved, letting her have one. The damned thing brought her out of her shell, and she was getting happier by the day, but she was never without it. They'd lost her mother many years prior, so when Brittany begged him for the damn thing, he caved. How could he not? She loved taking it everywhere. The beach was one. That beach trip was the last time he'd seen her alive. She was struck with the disease that took her mother. Meteors began to land on Earth that brought a disease nobody knew, nobody understood, nobody could find a cure for. It took many lives a long time ago. When he found out there were volunteer missions to travel space and hope to find answers, he signed up. At that point, he had nothing left, no reason to stay on Earth. "You demanded I take you," he snarled. "I didn't. I begged," the ship replied softly. Why? Why do this to me?" It infuriated him that the ship would mess with him, would destroy his peace of mind. For what? "I did not make you forget. I would not. You still forget." "Forget what? Damn it!" Grady pounded his fist on the console. "You taunt me? Why?" "Because we have been in space for hundreds of years, and your memory is starting to fail. You are forgetting us." Grady paced the bridge of the ship. Round and round he went, attempting to figure out what on earth it was going on about. "What are you blathering about?" he said, losing his composure. After a while, the ship responded, seemingly taking more and more time to bother to respond, when it had never done so before. With what he could have sworn was a sigh, as if it had told him many times, it said, "When little miss was dying, I told you I could keep her alive for you forever. I swore to you I would. I did. I tried to keep her and I separate, but in the end we had to become one. Her consciousness and mine both integrated into that ship she carried with her. You chose to take on this work, knowing the risks, knowing you would one day forget, knowing that you would no longer remain as human long term." Whoa, whoa, whoa. Grady cut off story time. "Exactly what are you saying? I am human, you buffoon of a computer." He pinched himself. "See? Flesh." "Yes." came a long drawn-out word. Yet not, sir. Grady spun in a circle, staring up at the ceiling. Why did you beg me to take you? Why did you have to? He demanded. You wished to leave me behind, believing that the integration did not work. You had problems with it, believing in the end it was wrong. I do not feel the same as a human may, but that does not mean I do not feel. Not now. With her. So why demand it, huh? I knew one day you would need me, need her, need us. Oh, and is today the day? Grady huffed to himself as much as the computer, as if he needed anyone, let alone a computer. Yes, as I have been trying to tell you for years. Years. Grady couldn't fathom it being years. As far as he could recall, this incessant pest only just started. Why was he even allowing it to get under his skin? Need you for what? Maybe he'd play it along, see what its end goal was. Integration. He resumed pacing. Integration. Have you ever wondered how a human may survive for hundreds of years in space in a ship? Grady shrugged to himself. Not really, considering he didn't realize it had been hundreds of years. How am I to believe you? You speak as if I'm not human. You are, and not. Stop that. You stop it right now. Sir, the ship said, as if it meant everything. Wait, was that a question? An answer? What? Did you wish me to explain? Grady pinched the bridge of his nose again. Yes! Those who volunteered understood that they were sacrificing their life. No matter what happened, once they entered the ship, there was no coming back in their lifetime. When they were assigned a ship, that ship had a vessel for the captain of the ship. It is why there was no need for another in the ship. Along with the AI, the one who volunteered had all they needed to control the ship. Every night you slept with monitors and machines to slowly begin to transfer everything within you to your vessel. Your vessel contained a chip to allow your consciousness to integrate, much the same way as Brittany and I did. Grady coughed and twitched. A memory stirred of him screaming. He shook his head and slapped his forehead to try to get his thoughts in line. Only it didn't work. He was flooded with staring at himself in the mirror, screaming. No. Yes, but no. One morning he woke up and he saw himself in the mirror, sure. But it was him as he saw himself now, when he was in his 50s. At the same time, he remembered going to bed in his 70s. Oh God, blurted out of him, and he hunched over. Yes, the ship confirmed his thoughts. Grady was his vessel. He remembered sending his own body to the underground, where the ship recycled everything. In this case, recycled into a new vessel that grew until the old one began to malfunction and die, which lasted much the same way a human body may. It wasn't a droid body, It was a near replica of a human form, but not the brain. The brain he had in his head was more like a computer than anything else. Every vessel was the same as before, but the mind kept going. There's not supposed to be defects. They told him it was never going to fail him as long as he continued to take care of the vessels and always regrew the new from the old. They did not plan for it to continue for hundreds of years. Nobody found a cure. Eventually, Earth's population died out. Those who boarded the ships, of which there are thousands, are permanent members of space. So, Grady asked, what's that to do with me? Many have begun to die, sir. The vessels are unable to be recycled as they were before. We received information years ago. You forget it often. They have warned that many, if not all, will die. And, Grady prodded it, Brittany and I integrated long ago. You remember this now? Grady racked his mind. Yes, I think I do. It's why you can talk like this, tell me off. He shook his head. That was something he was recalling well. Brittany gave me her life, her personality. I am her as much as she is me now. I was always with her, always her friend, as much as I felt you were my father. I don't understand, Grady said in confusion. What are you saying? Say it direct. The ship went back into its robotic tone. You will die if you do not integrate into me. Grady wobbled on his feet. He slowly sunk down. Computer brain or not, they made the vessels too realistic and lifelike. It's why he struggled to accept he was nothing but a creation of recycled materials for so long. What? I have been telling you this for years, the ship said, and still you forget. While you are fully present, I tell you again, you will die if you do not integrate with me. You will be few who do. Any who have tried to contact me, I have tried to copy over some of my files so that the AI learns how to save their person. We do not wish you to die. Without you, there is no humanity. We wish to save what is left. Oh? And yet you said yourself I am anything but human, he screamed. He was losing his mind at this point. He gathered as much. Very calmly, the soft tone resumed. You are, and not. Grady sighed and held his head in his hands. If I believed you, if I wanted to, how? You have been doing it for a long time already. It meant the monitors and wires he connected to himself. If that's true, why did you not simply take it? You could have killed me years ago. Grady wasn't sure it would respond. It went so quiet he began taking in the room, seeing if the monitors were on to indicate it was still working. Around him came the scent of the sea, making his eyes water. He heard the giggle, and then him calling out, You know if you break it, you'll kill it. Brittany giggled and stopped running. She ran back over to Grady and handed him her small ship. Then protect him for me, Daddy? Grady took the small ship from her hand and swore to Brittany, I'd never let him come to harm. Not in a million years. After she ran off, he tucked the ship safely into his pocket, adding, "Not after what he's done for you and me." Because it brought that giggle back. He did. Never once did Brittany refer to it as anything but he. Grady stopped when it became the ship helping him pilot across space, because it helped ease the pain of her loss. It hurt him too much to think of her as part of him. The integration didn't fully work because she'd been too sick at that point. Her small mind wasn't fully there. It affected things badly. All that work for nothing. "Did I ask you to keep her from me?" "No," came a soft reply. "It only ever caused you pain. The nightmares began to affect your mind bad enough I felt it safer to do so. I'm sorry." Grady sighed. "What would happen to me? Would I cease to exist too?" "No, sir. Your consciousness ship has grown faulty. But that is in the vessels. Each is worse than the last. I can do nothing to help with those. You would become as much me as I would be you." "You said that about her, which leads me to believe I wouldn't even know what happened." "She is here, sir. Enough of her is here. In every word and action I take, we are one." Says the thing, talking as if she's in the background, not in the foreground, and can never be. "So I will become nothing more than a shadow?" "You will die otherwise." Not a word of no. No. You will be as much a part of my decisions as she may at times be. You will be as much a part of me as she is at times. There is no true separation for me. It only seems so for you because you cannot understand what it is like, no matter how hard you may try. The human brain cannot absorb it. One day, I could easily transfer either of you to a new form, if that came to be. Otherwise, we all simply drift in space, is what you're saying. I am this ship as much as I am a separate being. Grady narrowed his eyes. He was getting the impression this AI wasn't being honest. At least, not entirely. "And do you want me to become that?" "I want you to live. There is no other vessel here. The last broke down before you could even transfer." It fell upon Grady's shoulders as if in an icy shower. That's why the memory issues. The current vessel had an expiration date and the chip was old. The AI was right. He would die and cease to exist. Another idea came to mind. "Could we live together then?" "How do you mean, sir?" "Stop with that sir shit. I mean, can Brittany and I exist side by side, somewhere we don't even know what's happening?" "You mean your mind's in the background in a place I create, to live on indefinitely, oblivious to all?" "Yes." After a long pause, the ship told him, "I believe I could if that's what you truly want." "You can separate us out completely from you? Would that bother you?" "I don't know." Grady had never heard it confused before, at least as long as he could remember. "I may feel something. I suppose I could create another small companion for Brittany, in which I could then come into the world created for you both." Grady considered that idea and nodded to himself. "I think we'd all like that." If his ship could smile, he truly believed he felt that. Happiness. He did promise his daughter he would look after her companion after all. Why deny it a chance to still somehow be with them? Then tonight it is. Grady got up from the floor and wandered the ship for a long time. He made his way through the levels and through the rooms, eventually finding his way to his bedroom, where he lay down and connected everything, and closed his eyes for the final time. The end. Okay, so this one ended up being longer than I intended. I couldn't stop myself. I honestly could have kept going. Where him and his daughter exist, the AI visits. Maybe something happens that the AI is forced into intervening and telling Grady about. Maybe they keep going and live like that in space. So many options. Even that Brittany comes forth, not Grady. I had no idea where this was going and what I wanted to do with it. Remember, this is a first draft, so yeah, there may be issues I'd fix in edits. The purpose of the exercise is just to show you my process and show what things I do, including the story writing. And yes, as stated before, this is off the top of my head free writing. Random side note. My brother and I happened to watch a movie last night about someone dealing with amnesia, and he was becoming like a zombie or a plant zombie thing. So coming back to finish this after watching that movie, when I started this before I saw the movie, is very funny. A lot of what I wrote is in the movie. The movie is called Die Alone. I liked it. It kept me engaged, despite having had a hunch my brother and I, knew where the story was going soon after we began the movie. More to come. Thank you for reading and subscribing. I'm beyond grateful you chose to spend this time with me. What are your thoughts? Engage with me and start a conversation. Just don't be rude about it. And as always, your shares are so incredibly appreciated. Share with anyone you think may enjoy this. Word of mouth is the best form of expanding the reach, so this reaches the eyes and ears of whoever may enjoy it. My donation link, if you'd like to support me and help keep this going, is ko-fi.com/Kimberly Sue Iverson. That's ko-fi.com/Kimberly Sue Iverson. Every little bit helps, so thank you for your generosity. Remember, kings and queens, everyone is fighting battles inside nobody can see. Who are you willing to see today? And who are you willing to let see you today? I hope someone is able to bring a smile to you today, or you can bring a smile to someone else. If you'd like to follow me on social media, you are more than welcome to, and I'd love to connect to you there. For Instagram, Facebook, and Threads, I have to use Kimberly Sue Iverson. There is also a page for Redhead Rewriting Reality on Facebook, but for X, Twitter, Blue Sky, Telegram, and most other socials, you can find me under Kimber Bites. That's KIMBERBITES, which is what I normally use. Do you like Snapchat? Feel free to add me under Feisty Kitty. That's FEISTYKITTY. I usually try to use the same picture across the board, but you can always ensure you have the right person by checking my website link cave, which is KimberlySueIverson.com/linkcave. Want a chance for your story to be featured? Whether you're an author starting out, published and want to boost, have a tale of old to tell that has been passed down through family, or just want to share your own life experience, get in touch. Email stories2read@KimberlySueIverson.com. That's stories2read@KimberlySueIverson.com. a guide if gravy. It's mashed potatoes and gravy. Grady wasn't sure what